Subaru's Forester is all new for 2025, so does that freshness help it beat the segment star Toyota's RAV4? What's up, folks? I'm Dave Undercoffler, head of consumer insights for CarGurus.com. Subaru gave its popular Forester crossover a complete makeover for 2025, and that includes fresh new styling on the outside, new tech on the inside, and a host of upgrades to help it drive better. But how does all that compare to the RAV4, one of the best-selling models in the entire segment? Let's go spend some time with both and find out. But before we do, be sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you can get alerts on all of our future updates. All right, let's start by taking a look at the exterior of this new Forester. Quick word on trim levels. There are 5 of them right now. There's the base model, which starts at about $31,000, including destination. And another note, remember that's also including standard all-wheel drive, which is on all Forester models. After the base, then you have the premium, then the sport, which we're testing today, then the limited, and at the top is the touring, which is about $41,400 all in. But regardless of which trim level you choose, all Foresters are going to look pretty much the same. They got the same sleek updates, especially at the front. Not all Subarus are particularly good looking these days. Sometimes they're kind of blocky or chunky. Subaru here did a really nice job. It's pretty sleek, looks a little more upscale than its predecessor. I also really like these headlights. They're sleeker. They've got integrated daytime running lights. Also, our sport model on the lower bumper has these bronze accents that also matches the wheels, and then there's some bronze trim on the inside I'll show you a little bit later. And then at the back, the redesign continues. Again, sleeker back here. You've got redesigned taillights. I like what they've done there. You also have some sport badging that's in bronze, and then some bronze accents down below. In terms of dimensions, this Forester is about ½ an inch longer than the previous generation and about 2.5 inches longer than the RAV4. Overall, the rest of the dimensions of these two vehicles largely line up. Meanwhile, the exterior of the RAV4 really hasn't changed much in recent years, and that's not a bad thing. This is a good-looking vehicle. It's rugged, it's sleek, and definitely has aged very well. The model we're testing today is the TRD Off-Road. It starts at about $39,000, including destination. Our tester has some options, so all in, everything you see here is about $41,400. If that's too rich for your blood, don't worry. The base model LE with front-wheel drive starts at about $30,000, including destination. Then there's a couple of XLE trims, there's an Adventure, and then at the very top, there's a Limited. All right, let's talk powertrains. There are actually a lot of similarities between the RAV4 and the Forester. Both of them have a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine that's not turbocharged. In the Subaru, its engine makes 180 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. It's paired with a CVT type of automatic transmission, and as I mentioned earlier, all-wheel drive is standard on all trims of the Forester. Meanwhile, the RAV4 wins on power. This has 203 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque. It's paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission. All-wheel drive is standard on higher-end trims, including the one we're testing today. Base models will get front-wheel drive standard, with all-wheel drive coming as an option. When it comes to fuel economy, MPGs will vary depending on which trim level of these vehicles you choose. But the good news is, both of the ones we're testing today are rated by the EPA at 28 miles per gallon combined. If those numbers aren't good enough for you, you should note that Toyota does offer the RAV4 as a hybrid model and as a plug-in hybrid, and Subaru has confirmed that there will be a hybrid version available of this new Forester, although they haven't released details just yet. All right, next up, interiors. We're sitting in the Subaru Forester. This has been completely redesigned, as I mentioned. The big news is this screen here. The base model gets a 7-inch screen, but all other trims of the Forester get this 11.6-inch display. This has wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. Really nice screen. It's pretty responsive to your touch. A couple of little things that I do like. You've got the wireless CarPlay displayed right here, but at the top you have this additional screen that will show your audio controls. You've got some gauges there. You've got the weather, which is always nice to have. And then finally, you've got some of the off-road modes. So it's nice that you've got sort of dual functionality there. And then down below at the bottom of the screen, you've got your climate control functions. What I like is that, yes, it's a touchscreen down below for the climate control, but you have physical buttons here for the temperature for both the driver and the passenger, and then physical knobs for the volume and the tuning. So I like that not everything is a touchscreen. Otherwise, the rest of this interior is really nicely laid out. You have a small digital screen here. Many cars today are going with either full digital screens or a larger screen. So the Forester, despite being all new, is a little behind the times there, but the rest of this cabin is really nice. Our tester has a really big panoramic moonroof. I like that. The seats themselves, very comfortable, really nice side bolsters here. Our tester has fake leather seats that are heated up front. And as I mentioned, we're in a sport model, so that means we have some bronze accent here on the contrast stitching, and then on the dashboard, lots of cup holders, lots of places to put things. Again, this is a Subaru. People are going to be storing lots of things as you go on your adventures. That's pretty cool. Wireless smartphone charging down below, and then some connectivity built in. And now for the RAV4 interior. Main thing you're gonna notice is a 10.5-inch screen here mounted on the top of the dashboard. This is one of the few areas where the RAV4 is showing its age just because screens are getting bigger and bigger. They're sort of taking over the whole dash, whereas this is still mounted just to the top. It's still a good screen. It's a nice size, very bright, crisp, has wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. And then down below, you've got these big controls for the climate control. Everything is a actual button or knob. It's not any touch screens. Very functional, very easy to find what you're looking for. In terms of instrument panel, as I mentioned, the Forester is a little behind the times with its small digital display. This RAV4 has a much larger display. It's also in color, so that's pretty cool. Moving down below, you've got your shifter and then a variety of different buttons and knobs for the different drive modes and the four-wheel drive modes that this car has. This RAV also has some goodies that the Forester doesn't, but remember the sticker price is a little higher on this Toyota. Those goodies include cooled seats up front. They're heated as well. We also have a digital rear view mirror, a smaller moonroof up top, and then wireless smartphone charging down below. But taken as a whole, this interior is really nice. There's nice little bits of sophistication and ruggedness that Toyota has built into the RAV4 that are kind of lacking on the Forester. Makes this vehicle feel a little bit more upscale. Some of those things are, these knobs have a nice little rubber coating to them, gives it a good quality feel. You've got some rubberized coatings on the side of the door here. Like the Forester, we've got contrast stitching running across the dashboard, some metal accents up top, and then these seats also fake leather and very nicely bolstered. In terms of interior space, both of these vehicles are in the same segment, so they're largely going to be the same. I'm sitting in the back seat of the Subaru right now, and if you've seen our videos before, you know the drill. I put the front seat to where I would have it if I'm sitting up there. I'm 6'1", so basically I'm sitting behind myself, and there's plenty of room back here. I really do enjoy it. I like lots of leg room, lots of headroom. Headroom between the Subaru and the Toyota is exactly the same. The Subaru does have a little bit more leg room, but it's not a big enough margin to be a deal breaker. You're still gonna be plenty comfortable in the backseat of the RAV. In terms of amenities back here, those are also nearly identical. Both vehicles will have a pair of air vents for the rear passengers and then a pair of charge ports. Finally, in terms of cargo space, again, these vehicles are in the same segment, so there's going to be pretty similar numbers when it comes to how much stuff you can put back here. This Forester actually has a little bit less room when the seats are folded up, but if you fold them down, there's more room back here. Both vehicles also have rear seats that are split 60/40 and fold flat. All right, next up, driving impressions, and we're starting off in the Forester. And as I mentioned earlier, this has less horsepower than the RAV4. This has 180, but it doesn't feel underpowered. It feels about average for this segment. It's not gonna overwhelm you, but this is a mainstream crossover. Good pep off the line, good initial acceleration. Where it kind of falls flat is when you really go to accelerate and you're already traveling at speed. Maybe you're on the freeway and you're trying to pass someone. That's where it's gonna feel flat, but it's also gonna feel that way in most of the competitors, so that's not necessarily a knock against this Forester. This also has a CVT type of automatic transmission. That's basically a gearbox that actually doesn't technically shift in the way that an automatic transmission does. Generally, I don't like CVTs. They feel cheap. They're usually used in cheaper vehicles, so it can lend a vehicle like this a cheaper quality. So I don't love that. I also don't really love their performance. They don't shift, so they can sometimes make the engine feel like it's droning really loud. Subaru, though, has done a really nice job in programming into this transmission these artificial shift points. So if you don't know the difference, you get in this car, it's gonna drive very much like it had an automatic transmission. So I like that, but still, I think an automatic transmission is gonna be better overall. So that's a little bit of a knock against this Subaru. I will say it's very quiet in this car. Quiet, composed. Subaru worked really hard to make this car stiffer, more refined, and feel more upscale, and it's successful. It really does feel that way relative to the previous generation of Forester. So overall, lots of good improvements in this car. No more power than the previous generation, but other refinements throughout the driving experience that really add up to a nice improvement. Visibility is excellent. This is a boxy vehicle, sits up high so you can see very easily out of it, and the brakes, excellent feel as well. All right, now we're in the RAV4, and as I mentioned earlier, very similar driving experience between these two vehicles, and actually the rest of the segment as a whole. The steering feels about the same, body roll is about the same. This does have a little bit more horsepower, 23 more horsepower, and it has that 8-speed automatic transmission. Like I said, I prefer the automatic, but what's actually a little interesting is that this engine gets louder than the CVT and the engine in the Subaru, and that's usually not the case. Usually CVT gearboxes will push the engine to be kind of loud. But in this RAV4, despite having an automatic transmission, the engine gets kind of noisy, kind of thrashes a little bit when you're going to accelerate. So that's a little bit of a mark against this RAV4. But other than that, the driving and riding experience in this RAV4, very smooth. You could definitely do long road trips in it. It's quiet, it's comfortable. Visibility is pretty good. Again, these are sort of boxier vehicles. You would hope you'd be able to see out of them pretty easily. Now, I gotta say, I'm actually surprised by the difference between how these two vehicles drive. On paper, you think the Toyota would come out ahead. It's got more horsepower and they have a legendary reputation for great powertrains. But in the real world, I was actually very pleasantly surprised by how the Subaru drove. It felt like it had more power off the line, and it's actually remarkably refined in daily driving at any speed in any situation. So because the Toyota is noisier and feels underpowered, and because Subaru gave the new Forester really nice refinement, and because its CVT mimics the behavior of an automatic, the Subaru comes out ahead in terms of driving dynamics. All right, folks, there you have it. Our comparison between the all-new 2025 Subaru Forester and the Toyota RAV4. Pros and cons of the Forester? Well, we really like the exterior styling. We love that all-wheel drive is standard and there's great tech on the inside. Cons? Well, it's down on power relative to the segment and the RAV4. We also don't love the CVT type of gearbox. And overall, the sophistication of this Forester just doesn't match the RAV4. Meanwhile, in the RAV4, we love the smooth riding and driving experience. The build quality is certainly upscale for what it is, and it's aged very well among its peers. Cons? Well, the interior is getting a little dated, and this styling has been around for a number of years, so if you've got to have the newest thing on the block, the RAV4 may not be the best choice. So which of these two vehicles should you choose? Well, if you've already made up your mind and you're just looking for a little validation, go with whatever you like the most. Both are really well executed and are among our top picks for this segment. But if we had to choose one, the Subaru actually came out as a surprise winner here. It just has more refinement and more power, and overall feels like a more modern vehicle. So for reviews or listings of these crossovers or anything else you're shopping for, new or used, be sure to check out CarGurus.com. Before you go, like and subscribe to this channel so you can get alerts on all of our future updates. We'll see you out there.